So I've heard already lots of times that people tell me there are hundreds of studies and a statistical that the know-how from studies is clearly pointing towards the direction that it's no difference between a man and a woman. Why do you think that that gender does play a role?
Yeah, great question. In our book, we just came out with this in February, but chapter 6 is all about same-sex parenting. And the first half of the chapter just looks at those studies, the studies that say that there's no difference between kids raised by two moms and two dads versus kids raised by their own mom and dad. So here's a really easy way to think about it. Whenever you are not studying same-sex parenting, family researchers agree on three things. Number one, biology matters. Biological parents statistically are the safest adults, the most connected adults, and the most invested adults in a child's life. Non-biologically related adults tend to put in less time, less money, less energy. They tend to be less attentive to children. And unfortunately, they tend to be the most dangerous person in a child's life, especially when that unrelated adult is a man. Mother's boyfriend or stepfather statistically is the most dangerous person in a child's life. So when you're not talking about same-sex parenting, sociologists agree that biology matters. Number two, sociologists agree that men and women offer distinct and complementary benefits to children. Men do things that women don't do. Moms do things that men don't do. So different are the ways that men and women interact with children. Many researchers would say there is no such thing as parenting. There's only mothering and fathering. Men don't mother, women don't father, kids need both. Finally, there is no research that you could find that said that kids don't suffer when their parent dies, when their parent divorces, when they are abandoned, even if they're subsequently adopted. And studies show that kids created through sperm and egg donation do not fare as well as kids raised in the home of their biological parent. Now, when you're not studying same-sex parenting, researchers agree on all of that. So why is it that suddenly when you study same-sex parenting, none of those things matter anymore? The child has always lost a biological parent and is being raised by a biological stranger. The child never gets the benefit of mother and father love, right? They're always going to be starved of one gender in the home. And kids cannot get to that same-sex parenting arrangement without losing a parent to death, divorce, abandonment, or reproductive technologies. Why is that? How on earth could you then come to the conclusion that there's no difference? And the answer is those studies are flawed. Those studies have major methodological problems. Either they have selected their participants not through random screening or just government data. They've recruited those parents. They have sought volunteers. A lot of times they're not actually measuring the outcomes of children in terms of, were they abused? How did they fare in school? Did they abuse substances? They're not asking those questions of the children themselves. Most of these studies are simply asking the adults to self-report. Hey, does your child like having two mothers? Is your child doing well in school? Has your child ever been abused? And of course, much of the time the response is, my kid loves this. Otherwise, why would the adult have volunteered for this study? Most of the time, these studies don't have adequate controls. They don't tend to be long-term studies. And so this is not the scientific process that you learned about in school. This is really much more likely to just be politically motivated actors who are seeking to find some kind of support for their political goals. So if you want more details about that, we go and we talk about every major study. In addition, we look at the very few studies that have used rigorous methods to evaluate outcomes for kids with two moms or two dads. And what you see is that no difference in reality means a huge difference in terms of detrimental outcomes for these kids.